Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to talk about Microsoft Entra, which was recently rebranded from Azure AD, plus merging of common solutions into a single portal page. This being IT Candor, if you want to claim you're a security expert, then you better have at least an advanced level of knowledge of Microsoft Entra. And I don't mean you skim the sales sheet and can list out the features. This is a call to action. Every manager, leader, and cybersecurity expert in the field needs to start getting their hands dirty and know how to configure these things. Versus trying to tell others what to do, and after 12 to 18 months, so many new features have been released. At some point, your lack of not dirtying your hands, you'll be advising out of date and misinformation. For my old schoolers in IT, Microsoft Entra is the modern cloud version of Active Directory domain services, but with a security-focused, zero trust, and combining multiple pillars such as identity, devices, sessions, apps, location, etc. It's all packaged together. If you come from on-premise AD, you got a lot to learn because, as we know, AD is 20 years old and isn't secure out of the box. It lacks many security and compliance features, which is why third-party companies have filled the gaps for almost 2 decades. As for my students and those fresh to their IT career who want to make a name for themselves, then this video will help you get started. Now, I'm not going to hold your hand, but I am going to give you a direction and a path forward to become an Entra champion, but you'll have to put in the initiative in the work. At Microsoft, there are known levels of training to help someone assess the skills from the actual training material. Level 100 is introductory, 200 is intermediate, level 300 is advanced, and finally 400 being expert. But did you know there was a level 500? This was the level of a Microsoft Certified Master, also called a Ranger, which unfortunately was retired almost a decade ago. Number of people who obtain this certification is very small. I would say across all the programs, less than 1,000 worldwide. Don't quote me, but it's not a very big number. However, those who have it are the best of the best. Would you like to see some MCM swag? Hold on 1 second. Still have the shirt and I still have the plaque. I'm gonna sit that over here. Now you're probably asking, Joel, why are you boring us with these MCM details? With fake news, fake people, and misinformation, there are plenty of people who claim to be an expert, but don't have any evidence. So here's my evidence, that I know what it takes to teach someone to be a master level of any technology. And in this case today, Microsoft Entra. I've spun up a quick demo tenant and grabbed a few trial licenses for this video. What we're going to do is split up Entra into 3 levels, which will be Novice, Advanced, and Champion, aka Expert, since I want to stick with the Champion theme of this video. We are going to go through the portal together, and I'm going to list out what you need to know and be able to configure to grade yourself, and so you can focus on becoming advanced or hopefully a champion level of knowledge for Entra. So don't rush out and buy some website or content creators training, because I'll list out some free resources and advice at the end of the video. Before we begin, there are 5 main areas within Entra, which are identity protection, identity governance, permission management, and global secure access, which is still in preview at the time of this video. We will focus on 4 of these and will not be touching permission management as it really needs its own video. If you want an in-depth video of permission management, drop something in the comments. The remaining 4, I'll go feature by feature and discuss what you should be able to do to call yourself a novice, advanced, or champion. This video will have timestamps and descriptions, so jump around to match your skill set. And with that, let's get to it. We're going to start off with our novices. As you can see here on the screen, I have the Microsoft Entra homepage. You can find that at entra.microsoft.com. If you're on the other portal pages, you're going to get notifications saying pop-ups saying, hey, go here, click here to get you there. Obviously, it's rebranded from Azure Active Directory. Anybody coming over there will know this. Anybody brand new, historically, will say Microsoft Entra was Azure AD. Novice people. Here's a list of things on the right that I feel at a minimum you should be able to achieve to say you are a novice in Entra. I've split them in the same categories as what you see in the portal page, identity, protection, etc. And these are the things I feel that you should be able to achieve to say you're a novice. In this example, here is the user section. So I said user managing, group device managing. Do the basics in here, know how to create users, know how to manage the users, know how to understand what all the columns are, all the properties are for users, groups, and devices. Next on the list is managing applications. And this is going to be a very, very big part of being a novice, is understanding what are applications. And that word can be something that you think about that you install install an application. Yes, that's true. Install Office, install Adobe Reader on your computer. But in theory, applications could be a cloud application, something you never install, such as this example, Box. It could be the Box SaaS application. It could be Dropbox. It could be Salesforce. All these different types of applications exist. Office 365 application. You need to be able to manage the application, such as adding a new application to support the business. You should also have some knowledge of app proxy, what the solution is, and what applications are not in the cloud, but are on-premise in your environment today still. Protections. This one is more of getting used to looking at the user risk and the sign-in risk policies, what your company has configured, understanding multi-factor within the company, what is the policies, what is the procedures, and making sure that these are being used. Are they good enough? Has it been enabled? That's the first question. After that, looking at the policy, and is it actually enabled to a level that will actually provide value? Understanding this is going to help you in more complex situations when you move into advanced. Authentication methods, very important. Understand what your company's using. If you're still using SMS, why are you not using temporary access? That's a problem. Are you using FIDO keys from some scenarios? Understand what's enabled, what's not enabled, and what are you doing to get to the better authentications that exist within the environment. Password reset, moving to a self-service password reset model. Is it in use today? If not, why? Make sure people are getting it out there. Looking at the authentication methods for self-service reset, security questions really aren't that good anymore. Just getting an idea of, what exists in here and what policies are being used today. Identity governance from a novice perspective is kind of asking more questions than anything. Get an idea of how a new user is created and onboarded and gets access to email, voice calls, team sites, file servers, whatever they need, a new person for different roles within the company. How do they get onboarded? Ask the question, if I was to move from the database team to the network team, crazy, I know, completely different types of stuff. How would my access change where I no longer get access to database stuff? And how do you work with somebody who's leaving the company versus somebody's being terminated? So as a novice, really sit down and get an understanding and ask the questions, how does it work today if you're going to move into identity governance? As you can see here from my list, talking about solutions that are involved and looking at the entitled management. Honestly, if you're a very large company, you might not even touch this because you already have a lot of systems involved. If you're a smaller or medium company, this might be very important to you. And I would say as a novice, go ahead and start looking at opportunities to set up app packages where a person who's in HR is going to get access to everything that they need. Somebody in sales and marketing gets access to everything they need when they join the company. Last on the list, and this is obviously in preview, so I don't have everything turned on, really enabled, but the goal here should be, as a novice, the starting point is going to be deploying the Global Secure Access client out to Windows 10 and Windows 11 devices. So as a novice, even if you're not deploying the package yourself, you should understand where to get it from, what does it look like when it's installed, work with the team who owns packages and say, hey, can you go ahead and start rolling this out? If we're having plans to start using this feature, it doesn't hurt you to get the client out there, even though certain features are still in preview. And for novices, it's really about what is coming, what's this secure access stuff, and how do I get the client rolled out to endpoints so we can start taking advantage of it. If you can manage all these features within Entra, then give yourself a pat on the back. Time to move those skills up to advanced. Advanced users is where we really start kicking things up. So as a novice, you really need to get used to navigating the portal, knowing where things are, knowing what the terms are, knowing what these different pieces are, users, groups, applications, devices, and how they'll all come together when you start doing advanced things, especially in the security space. So if you look at my list here, users, groups, and devices, all of them just really understanding what are the different settings. Let's just take user settings as an example. Have we restricted non-admins from managing the tenant? Have we done stuff with the guest to make it tighter, better for guest access? Have we restricted access to the admin portal? Just things like that. Are we doing the best we can within the settings? Something that you will notice in all of these is this audit logs and sign-in logs. As an advanced user of Entra, you really need to be comfortable with the logs themselves, both audit and sign-in logs. What do they look like? What are all the different headings available for them? Knowing what these different GUIDs are. What is this object ID? What is this app ID? How do I find this information? Where do I get this information from? If you're going to say I'm advanced, the first question I'm going to ask you is, what does this mean? What does this mean? And if you can't answer it, that's fine. But you should say you're a novice then. Because an advanced person is always going to be good at the logs, and you don't want to be like, oh, we're being hacked. I don't know what this stuff is. Or where do I go to find what this is? You should kind of get it known as second nature, that I know where to get this app ID from to find out what app it is. Not when you're under pressure. Under enterprise apps for advanced users, you're really going to focus on the consent for both users and admins. And this is kind of an important thing for the fact that a lot of countries have a lot of rules around the data you can collect, even from your own users in your environment. And this is very, very important to try to get consent before using certain applications, collecting certain data. For protection, as an advanced Entra admin, you really should be able to deploy Azure App Proxy. Now, this is an as needed scenario. You probably have some on-premise applications that could take advantage of this. Nobody's 100% cloud. So those applications you would want to get through the Azure App Proxy, get them published. Focus on these types of reports, what the data is, how does this ticket come to be, what type of stuff do you see in them when you're talking about locations, you're talking about workloads, you're talking about applications, you're talking about risky sign-ins, risky detections. You should be comfortable with the reports as an advanced user. If I had to pick one thing that you have to know inside and out to call yourself advanced, it is conditional access. You need to be damn good at this. And I don't mean creating a new policy from template. Yeah, that's the cheap way. I mean creating new policies, and when you look at the new policy, what does all this mean? And enabling as much as possible, especially if you go into the grant access. Are you doing enough here? In the sessions, do you even start testing out this preview for the token stuff? Very, very important. Under conditions, are you using as many as possible? We talked about user risk and sign-in risk as a novice. Now you need to put that into practice as an advanced. And an advanced person is going to enable as much of this as possible and using as little to no exclusions. Authentication strength, another big area for advanced people. Multi-factor, making sure there's a policy assigned to it under here. Get involved with secure score. Look at the type of improvement actions that need to happen. Look at the scores that are impacted. Where are you not doing a good job? Get involved with the history. Like, why did 30 days ago it was at 25 and now I'm down to 16? See what changed. New application came in, causing some issues, wasn't properly configured, enabled, missing conditional access on it, whatever. That helps you fix it before it becomes a problem. Just like the audit and sign-in logs, running the risky user report, risky workload, risky sign-in, you really need to know these inside and out and how you're going to utilize them. What are you going to do if a user's considered a risky user? You're going to flag it as compromised. Identity governance, it goes back to what I said earlier. Are you going to use this? Now, a large enterprise might already have a very complex system in place that's been there for a long time. A smaller business or medium business might want to take advantage of this, like creating a workflow, using some of the templates that are built in this scenario isn't a bad thing, such as offboarding an employee, real-time employee termination. How do you want to use these? And it could be an example where the business already has a very complex system and you want to move away from that. That might be a good thing, because today, to make one change to it is a nightmare. It could also be you're setting up a joint venture with another company and you're like, well, we're not going to go and use their system. They're not going to use ours. This is a perfect opportunity that we just set up something inside here brand new. We don't have to bring all that mess that we have and just use something like this. It might not be the most feature rich, but sometimes feature rich gets you in trouble where after 5 years, it's so complicated that it causes problems. So something to think about. Advanced people are going to be damn good at access reviews. Get in here, look at the access reviews, not just for users, but also for applications as well. That's a big thing. So run reports. Advanced people are going to really, really be involved with this scenario. PIM, managing it, setting up just in time, looking at the roles, making sure people are configured for eligible and not always full-time in tune security admin. They need to request for it, and then your request have approvals. Advanced people will know what verified credentials are, how to configure it, set it up. There's not a lot that you need to do. It's more for the developers, so you just need to make the developers aware of. Finally, getting back to global secure access, quick access for your applications, setting up segments, understanding what these are. This will really help you. Obviously, you need app proxy for it, so you did that earlier. Get your session management under control now. Look at tenant restrictions, look at adaptive access. Traffic forwarding is another good area to focus on in terms of making secure traffic profiles. This is something an advanced person will be able to set up, configure, and manage, and make sure that you are using the Microsoft 365 profile or a private access profile. Give yourself a crisp high five and go do something relaxing for leveling up to Entra Advanced. Unlike Novice, Advanced is where your skills are going to overlap with security and compliance, trying to help the business implement security policies and controls. This is going to take a few months of labs, testing, and finally implementation. If you're not getting your hands dirty, then you won't be able to achieve advanced skills. For some reason, I can hear the Pokemon theme, which is very catchy about being the very best. Let's find out what makes an Entra champion. Let's talk to my champions. So the champions out there, you need to know everything in and out about PIM, everything. You need to be using it, it needs to be enabled, and it needs to be no excuses. The reality of it is a champion just isn't knowing it, it's using it. And using it means working a little bit harder to convince the business or convince the other people this needs to be enabled and finding a way to get it adopted. So a champion isn't just I did tech, it's is tech, is business, bringing them together, showing the value, and get it rolled out. So if you say, well, I'm a champion because I know all this stuff, it's useless unless it's enabled, unless it's being used. Not just knowledge of I know what this is. If you know how to use it right, then why aren't you? Be a master of access reviews. get in there, know how to do the reviews, know how to use them, such as setting up a schedule, setting up a routine maybe every 6 months, quantifying and qualifying the data that comes back to say, is this a good review of an HR random set of people? This is what we expect to see. Is this the right scope review for finance? Is this what we expect to see? So using it to then go back to the business, show them the data and say, this is what we want to enable next to remediate too much access, or this is what we want to do next to improve this by using the data. Within enterprise applications, champions are going to focus on least privilege access and be good at it. Get the application down to what it needs. Collecting unnecessary data could get you in issue with compliance. Collecting unnecessary data means that data could be stolen from another source. So if the hacker can't get it from here, but they have it, we'll just take it from there. So if they don't have it, it can't be stolen. I'd say the big one up here would be automation. So you're going to move into a lot of automation. So when we start talking about identity security and these alerts that are coming in and identity protection and user risk policy and that, the question is going to be, when a user comes in risky and everybody's asleep, a system should automatically take care of that for us as much as possible. Champion's going to say, let's find a way to automate this next. Does it go to a SIEM solution? Does it go to a SOAR solution? And then is there what comes after that? So when I wake up, it might just be review a report that there were on average at night 5 high-risk users, and this is how we're remediated. That's our normal because you had good automation when you were asleep. Decommission ADFS. ADFS gotta go, okay? You need to get rid of ADFS. So as a champion, you should be talking about how long and when you were gonna get rid of those awful ADFS servers. If you don't know what you're doing and you don't have a plan, you can't call yourself a champion. What's your plan for AD Connect? AD Connect syncs a lot of identities to the cloud. That is next on the chopping block to get rid of that server and move into a cloud-based solution with Azure AD Cloud Connect. Might not be able to do it today, but at least understand that that's next to go. What does it look like for your business? And when is your plan to start testing, or when can you move to that solution? What's the difference in conditional access between an advanced user and an Entra Champion? The champion has better design. A novice person is going to use a template. An advanced person is going to have way too many policies, 40, 45, ridiculous policies and exemptions all over the place. The difference will be an advanced person is just going to say, oh, I have a requirement, create a new policy. I have a requirement, create a new policy. A champion is going to focus on how do I reuse the policies I have and how do I have the least number of policies. I'll help you out. If you have 20 policies, you probably have too many. There you go. A champion, try to get under 15. Minimal to no exemptions. And almost all the policies, but maybe one. Because the more exemptions you have no clue what you have. And think of it, you're gonna go back and audit 45 policies? Let's be honest, hell no you're not. Don't lie to me. You don't lie to yourself. Could you audit 10 policies? Every 6 months? I think so. Now, there are great tools out there to help with the auditing. My point is, the more you have, the less likely you are to do it. The more you have, the more mistakes you have, the more risk you have. Less is better. That's what a champion is in Entra. On my list here, I have dynamic groups. That's a big thing. Get away from this micromanagement of groups, add, remove, add, remove, add, remove people. The other two for champions is the secure score and security center. What are they going to do different than an advanced person? Advanced person is going to look at it and start to get to understand the data. A champion is going to take that data and use it for automation. Under identity governance, when it comes to a champion, they're going to move beyond, I want to get access to a group, and they want to start looking at, I want to get access to resources. So the group could give you access to a lot of things that you don't need access to at that time versus micromanaging it down to a level of the resource. The difference between a champion and an advanced person with verified credentials is really going to be this, how do you get it involved, the business involved? How do you tell the developers this exists and ways they can use it? Any type of scenario, maybe like there's some sales and marketing people really want this and are like, look, we're going to give a discount from this company to our company, 10% off, and you buy something in our store, but we want to verify that those other people are from that company. Last on the list, as a champion, when it comes to this new global secure access stuff, really get on top of what session management is. That's going to be the next big thing. If a session isn't even established, it makes it harder to get into an application and steal data. This is where monitoring is going to be very, very important for the champions. We have audit logs, traffic logs, enriched logs, and workbooks. None of this stuff is actually up and running yet at this time because it's in preview. So when it is in public preview, get involved early and give feedback. There's one I didn't touch on the entire time, which is permission management, for two reasons. The first is obviously you can see it says launch portal. It takes you to a different place and you have to buy additional licenses and things like that for it. Number two, it almost needs its own video because it is in its own page. Now, maybe this will get moved over. Maybe there's some big plans in the background. That's why it's not included today. It moves beyond firefighting after the incidents have occurred to a proactive approach of automated remediation of most incidents before they turn into a compromise. Champions review their company data to plan for what's next, such as targeted training for specific users who are constantly clicking phishing emails, users who have high risk score by reducing their access to critical data. At the end of the day, ensuring the business investment in Entra licenses are being maximized, testing out preview features early, and providing feedback. Thus, this will help to enable adoption of a feature as soon as it's out of preview versus the traditional 6 to 12 months legacy IT approach. The sooner those new features are enabled, the sooner those features have a chance to block attackers. Free resource links will be in the description, and to put a cherry on top, here are my tips. There are plenty free resources on Microsoft's learning page about all the Entra product family. Spend some time reading. However, the best advice is to check if your company has a test Azure tenant already and to start trying out Microsoft Entra features in a place where you can cause 0 outages. Trust me, get those hands dirty. If you have access to Microsoft account managers, support engineers, etc., see if there are any upcoming training provided as part of the business contract. Microsoft offers free licenses for 30 to 45 days on most of these products. May not be perfect, but try that route. Finally, and probably the most important, set yourself a goal and take one of the Microsoft Entra certifications. If you're going to put in the time to learn something, go the extra mile and grab the certificate. If you're truly advanced, most people should be able to pass the certification with little to no studying. I'll put a list of certifications that complement Entra in the description. My friends, we've come to the end of this episode. Sharing knowledge in IT is mandatory. Please pass this video on to a friend or colleague who will hopefully get some value from the content. And as always, keep it candor.